Hello, this is Bryce Morrison from thegameprodigy.com, and in this video we're going to talk about how you can pull players into your game through story and character development. In a previous game design tutorial, we discussed how you can build layers on top of game mechanics to extend the gameplay of a title you're developing. This is a great tool to use and can help you really get some bang for your buck, but this isn't the only technique you should have in your toolbox to increase the length of your game. Telling a tale is a great way to keep the player's interest during a game. To do this, you need an understanding of how to develop characters and stories. By getting your players to care about what happens next in the story, then their interests in how things will evolve will keep them playing. Combined with good game mechanics, this can make for a very compelling experience. How do we begin to work characters and story into our game? We can't just tell it like a normal book. But what we can do is look to the tried and true methods from other media. A lot of these elements find their roots in storytelling from other places, such as novels or film. The same techniques that fiction writers use to create and develop their characters can be used by you as a game developer as well. In the example game I'm going to use in this tutorial, the setting is a world of insects. The goal is for the player to help the bug move across the level by helping him avoid the raindrops. The drops fall from the sky, and the player needs to click them in order to defend the bug. If the bug gets hit, then he dies and the game is over. Now, this is a fairly decent game already, but you can continue to build gameplay layers on top of this to make the game last longer. However, in this example, we're going to extend the gameplay not by adding more game mechanics, but by adding a story. Telling a story is most easily done using text and speech, since those are the ways that stories are mostly told in other media as well as real life. But before we jump into that, we need to create our story and our characters. I'm going to make this bug into a character named Jennings. We're going to develop him using a technique called a character sheet. This is a technique used by fiction writers and is a great way to get started when you're doing character development. A character sheet is where you fill out all the details you can think of about your character. Their likes, their dislikes, their family, what is their personality, what's the opposite of their personality, their dreams, their specific experiences, anything you can think of. The more you develop the character, the more real and connected the player will eventually feel. For Jennings, we're going to say that he's lonely, he has a dream of becoming a butterfly, that he's not really good with parties, that he has a son named Harold. Finally, as Harold has gotten older, Jennings and Harold have grown apart. The reason that Jennings is outside is because he was giving his son some space today. Unfortunately, that's when the rain started to pour. Okay, now we have developed our character and a bit of our story. How do we convey it to the player? I'll just add in some text here at the beginning to give the player some background into Jennings' dilemma. Of course, this isn't enough. We need to keep feeding the player character development information as they keep playing. This way, they'll always be looking forward to the next bit of information about Jennings, and they'll keep playing the game. But how quickly do we give them more information? This brings up the issue of pacing. It's important to remember that humans aren't computers. You can't hand someone a character sheet and then expect them to be emotionally attached to the character. You need to reveal to them the character and the story over time. How much time? That's up to you. You don't want it to be so sparse that the player forgets about the story, but you also don't want it to be so rapid that the player can't remember and just gives up trying to feel engaged entirely. Try out a method and see if it's getting the result you want. If not, just adjust the knobs. For Jennings, we're going to reveal little bits of his character each level, which is about every minute or so. The player will learn about his past, his relationship with his son, and why he left to go in the rain. So we're developing our story, and we know that it has good pacing and time for character development to occur. Now we're ready to have the player interact with this story to really make it meaningful. Interaction is the strongest strength of games over other media. Having a player interact with a character in a game is the best way to have them develop a relationship with the character. So it's a crucial component of compelling stories. What you want to do is create situations in your game where the player is interacting with the characters and affecting the story as a result. They don't necessarily have to change the story or have multiple outcomes, but they should feel like they are the reason that the story is driving forward. This will keep the player engaged in the mechanics of the game, the actions that he or she is performing, while being pulled into the game's tale. So far, all we've done is tie the story in about as loosely as you can get, with just text and then the gameplay separate from that. Ideally, you want to tie in the story and the gameplay very tightly. So what we're doing here is we'll have Jennings' son come out in the rain to meet him. This is a story element given by Jennings, and it also affects the gameplay, because now the player has more area they need to defend from the raindrops. And so we get a little bit more character development, and off we go. And so that's it. We have a decently developed story for this little game we've made, and the story pulls the player in and asks them to continue playing to learn more. By using character development, good story pacing, and gameplay interaction with the story, you have the tools you need to craft stories to pull the player into another world. Exactly how and where you inject the story into your game is up to you. Just make sure that it's following those 3 rules and you'll be successful. For more videos and articles for intelligent game and career development, be sure to visit us at thegameprodigy.com. Thanks for watching.